welcome to Hunter Fuel, a supernatural rewatch podcast for adults who enjoy their show with a chaser. I'm Liz.
And I'm Lynn.
Thanks so much for joining us for season 2, episode 7, The Usual Suspects. We model responsible drunkenness here. All participants are way over 21. No one is pregnant. No one will be driving, handling weapons, operating heavy machinery, or buying our new girlfriends the same necklaces as our dead girlfriends. If you're playing along with us, those are the rules. If you decide not to follow them and you do something stupid, don't blame us. Lynn, what are you drinking this evening?
So, there's a little bit of a story behind this.
Ooh, tell me the story.
So, my wonderful husband gave
Yes.
me um, a calendar for Christmas. Yes, it's a little early for these.
Oh,
And it's 25 bottles of wine.
nice. It's
Now, what's
almost like he knows you.
yes. So now the funny thing is that yes, I am drinking one of the bottles, and
Okay.
before someone goes, you're drinking a bottle of wine. Yes, because the entire bottle is that.
Y- yeah, so it's an advent calendar.
Yes.
Yeah, so they're airline what used to be called an airline bottle.
Well, I would say they're a little bit bigger than that, but
Okay.
like the entire bottle is that.
You
So I
lush
have all I
drinking a whole
know.
bottle.
Yeah, I am drinking a whole bottle of wine.
Well,
Yeah, all I know is it's red. Is
okay.
it's a red Italian wine. Other than that, I
Okay.
have absolutely no idea.
Well, I hope that it's tasty. The featured cocktail for this episode is called, you're not going to believe this, Usual Suspects. And it's a little strong. It's 1 ounce of tequila, one and a
Ooh,
half ounces of vodka, 1 ounce of peach schnapps, 1.5 ounces of pineapple juice. Stir that with some ice and top it with a lemon lime soda, which I'll admit I did not do, and serve. Before I show this to you, I just want to remind everyone that after Bloodlust, all of the vodka in my house is black. So if you make this one for yourself, yours will not be the same color as mine. With that, Wizard Dave, if you could bring up our Supernatural game cards for us, please. Mm, I don't have a good feeling about mine. It's not showing a lot of promise.
I'm gonna have a couple.
Okay, yeah, yeah, I think the same. So, with that, as always, the first one is on the house. Lynn, you have checked off your free squares. Oh, cheers.
Cheers. Not
Oh, this one's strong.
bad.
It's it's all right. It's all right. It's not awesome. But I've certainly drunk worse.
Asylum comes to mind.
Oh boy, yeah, I think we need, it sort of like smells like Teen Spirit. We just need to retire that one. It's never going to be that bad. Um,
We hope.
oh, you, we have a long way to go, so we'll see. Uh, okay, well, if you're playing along with us, there is a link to generate a card of your own in the link tree. So with that, let's get this show on the road.
Yes. So we start back with pe- doing the family business, obviously the hunter's funeral, and we start right with you see how the boys sort of make their living with all the different scams that they pull, from credit card fraud to fake IDs to changing their identity every 5 minutes, from whether they are priests or whatever the identity is of the moment. And then they go into talking about when we were Liz's favorite episode, Skin,
It's good.
when when there is the doppelganger of Dean who basically makes it so that it looks like Dean murdered somebody. And he goes, man, how
And is
many
now
chances are
dead.
you going to have to miss your own funeral? So, sorry, Liz, were you trying to say something?
I was just saying, so presumably Dean is dead now, as far as the law is concerned.
Yes. So, yeah, so we are now in Baltimore, Maryland, where, and I will say that the director for this episode is Mike Roll. So,
Yes.
because I know we always like to talk about that. And the actor that we just saw, his name is Jason, and I'm going to mispronounce his last name. I know it. I want to say it's Godric, and he was in Backdraft.
Gedrick,
Gedric.
Gedrick with an E. Yes, he was also in Dexter and Bosch.
So, see, so I know I've seen Backdraft, and I feel like I've seen the woman in something, but I did some
Oh,
research and I couldn't find anything that was recognizable, but I still say I've seen her in
oh,
something.
oh, we're gonna talk a lot about her in a minute. Let's get through the rest of this cold open though.
Yeah, so basically we're realizing that Sam has now been. It looks like the boys have basically been caught red-handed in a crime that, well, we all know how this goes. That they clearly did not commit because we know how this storyline goes. Just in general, I'm not even talking this episode. Like we've kind of seen this before.
Yeah, yeah, our boys are the good guys. So I've paused it on the title card here. So we have two things right off the bat. So one of the boys is under arrest. So Dean is in police custody, and he is shackled to a table, which we are calling him being tied up. So we have two squares to look for right away. So let's see what we've got here. I have one of the boys is tied up. Oh, and I have one of the boys gets arrested. And as of right now, I have three in a row.
Oh, Jesus. Okay, so I have one of the boys gets tied up, and uh, that's that's it for me. But still,
Okay.
I'll take one.
All right. Well, cheers.
Cheers.
Okay, before we hit play, so this actor that you were referring to, her name's Linda Blair.
Yeah.
And if that does not sound familiar to you, her breakout role, which she received an Oscar nomination for, was The Exorcist, which I know, Lynn, you have not seen, but
No,
it's
no, I have not.
it, it is a Eric Kripke identifies it along with The Shining as one of the two best horror films of all time. He calls her horror film royalty. Like she is infamous for that role. Um, the official companion volume for season two it talks about her and how excited they were to have her be willing to be on their little show because this is season two,
No.
right off the bat. Entertainingly enough, there was just a convention down in Orlando, not this past weekend, but the weekend before. And coincidentally, Jared and Jensen were telling some stories about working with Linda Blair on this episode. Now you can see in the cold open compared to Sam, and we'll have an opportunity to see it a little later. She is quite petite. She is
Yes.
she is a tiny, tiny little actor. And according to Jensen, the first time she saw him and Jared, she looked all the way up and said, "Oh my God, you two are gigantic." They both said she was just absolutely lovely to work with. However, she had not done a lot of like this is a police procedural role, and as I understand it, her one of her caveats for being willing to come on the show was that she not play kind of the roles that she'd been playing. She wanted to do something different. But the downside of that is she hadn't really had an opportunity to, play a cop and carry a firearm on screen. And according to Jensen, she was just holding it wrong. Like she had both hands with both index fingers through the trigger guard and just holding it in a very, very awkward way. So he asked the director to cut, and he went over and he's like, Show me that again." And she showed it to him, and he's like, "Okay, try this." And he started like showing her how to hold the pistol properly, and she went, "Oh, that's so much better." Uh, so I thought it was cute that it's a fun little coincidence that we were getting ready to record this episode, and just recently they were talking about Linda Blair at one of the conventions.
Excellent.
All right. I think that is everything I wanted to say. So we're hitting play.
Yes, absolutely.
All right, moving
All
on.
right. So moving right along here. So we have Sam now with the detective, and she
Up to
hands him
like his
something to
elbow.
drink. I'm sorry.
She comes up to like his elbow. She's so tiny compared to him.
And I love how she puts it down. So I'm drinking cheese, and he goes, "So you're the good cop, where's the bad cop?"
Yep.
And and she says, "Well, you're being charged with murder." And he's like, "Murdering whom?"
Right.
And suddenly she starts to lay out basically his family history, making it very clear to Sam that she knows quite a bit about the family, minus the fact that they're hunters. And I love it how when she's like, "Feel free to jump in at any time."
Yeah.
Shy, no problem. I'll keep going. I love that little line.
This is a fun role for her. Like she's a feisty person. This is also kind of a fun moment because this is where we get the detail that Sam had a full ride scholarship to Stanford. So this is one of the questions some of the fans have asked is how does this guy with like this spotty education history get into Stanford? And so we have here, well, he was smart enough to get himself a full scholarship.
Yeah, straight A's.
Yeah,
So yeah, so it was very much. I love it when he's talking about, my girlfriend passed away, and I just needed to take a road trip
hmm
with my brother. And I love how he says, like, okay, possible, like he is trying to work his way through her story, to because of course he studied pre-law, so he knows that there has to be probable doubt in order, like, if a jury is going to convict him, there can't be any reasonable doubt at all. So
yeah,
he's like, you've got reasonable doubt throughout this entire thing, and just trying to pick her story apart, which I love.
yeah, they don't have anything on him, and this is something I'm going to talk about later. But yeah, they've picked him up in addition to Dean. It's
Yep.
unclear why or what he's suspected of. But what it seems like is that they're hoping to get him to flip on Dean.
Yep, and
Um,
even says, "You expect me to flip on my own brother?" Like, and the whole facial expression says, "And that ain't happening," and worth anything. And she even says, like, "Dean's as good as gone," and he's like, yeah, and he starts to talk about, and it's funny, you think he's saying one thing when you realize he's saying something else.
This is something I think is really cool about how this is done is that
Yeah.
he's telling this fabricated story about why
Yes.
they were there.
Yeah.
We're about to see Dean drink his coffee. We'll come back to that
Yeah.
in a moment.
Yeah.
But we see in the flashbacks that's entirely not what happened. But when
Right.
they cut to Dean, she says his story matches Dean's perfectly, which I think is kind of it tells us that these two people are constantly prepared to get arrested. Like they've
Yeah.
always got their story straight just in case they get picked up. And I think it's kind of a fun little moment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah, and they talk about like going to see Karen and she was barely holding it together. Well, they did technically, except for the fact that they were going in as insurance salesmen and
Right.
not as actual friends. And I, there's a moment in here where, yes, they're doing their usual like question thing of like, yeah, we just needed to ask you a couple more questions. I know you answered all this with the police, yada yada yada. We've seen this line of questioning several times, but all of a sudden, Dean starts going through like, well, was there anything unusual, weird? And he gets this unusual, like the reason I mention this is he gets this unusual look. It's almost like his eyes do this like weird thing where he gets more
You
excited
know,
than normal.
weird.
It gets all
Yes.
like he's biting his bottom lip and it's like, come on, come on, come on, like trying to
Yep.
almost egg her on. And Sam's like, halt, like
Yep.
chill out, calm down,
Yep.
relax, back off.
And Sam is making the same kind of quick changes that we saw in Children Shouldn't Play with Dead Things when they were interviewing the father, where he's making the puppy dog eyes at poor Karen Giles, but then he's
Yeah,
like shooting these hairy eyeballs at Dean, like back off, dude! Like you're coming on way too strong here. Um,
yeah.
so yeah, he's stuck in the same situation trying to corral this brother of his who's not doing the best job with their pretext.
No, no, no. All I love how it's like, okay, well, I gave Karen a hug and we left. It's like, yeah, you got the information that you needed because you find out that the husband supposedly had this nightmare and felt that he woke up with this pale woman at the foot of their bed that had these red eyes, which kind of keep that in the back of your mind because that's going to be very important throughout this whole episode. Now, of course, we did just see Dean. Dean just picked the lock to get into Anthony's office, which is of course where where he died.
Hmm.
So so yeah. So
Right.
and of course. Sam makes the comment of, so it would have been physically impossible for Dean to have killed him because, and I'm going to pause it here for just a second, because we were out of town reading it when it happened, so there's no way Dean could have done the murder.
Right.
So,
Right.
so
So yeah,
anyway,
their timeline doesn't match.
yeah, timeline doesn't match at all. So we're in the office, and they have now seen this printout that becomes very important throughout this whole thing, and we will see it repeatedly where we get this name over and over and over again of Dana Schultz. And it's
Yep.
just
Dana
Literally
Schultz, Dana
Dana
Schultz.
Schultz over the entire page.
Yep.
And
So while I'm sorry, go ahead.
no, I was gonna say while we're paused, why don't we take a look at our bingo cards? Because
Yes.
we
So
because
we
we
have
do
Dean
have
picks a lock.
yep.
We have Dean drinks, and he also said we had him an awesome. So we have awesome Dean drinks, Dean picks a well, someone picks a lock. And we're about in just a few seconds here going to have a dude. So I suggest that we look for all four of those.
Sounds like a
So
plan. I've got a dude and a deed. Dean eats or drinks. Apparently, you cannot say those words at the exact same time. It does not work out very well.
yeah, and I
Uh,
have none of those. I'm just double checking here because that just seemed, for a zero for four just breaks my
oh,
heart.
and now I have three in a row.
Oh, yeah. So we are tied with three in a row.
Yep,
Yeah,
and
no, confirmed. I have not a single one of those. But you did, and I can't let you drink alone, so I'm gonna have
no, no.
a wee smidge with you. Congratulations on your square.
Well, thank you very much. And actually, I got two because I had a dude also. I had a dude and a
Hmm.
Dean.
Congratulations on your squares. Um, okay, before we move on here, so the actor who plays Karen Giles, her name is Keegan Connor Tracy. She's going to be back twice more in Supernatural in later seasons as different characters. So remember that face. We're going to see her again. Um, she has been in Once Upon a Time and The Magicians as well. Other thing I'm going to mention about the Dana shops is Dean when he sees this, Lynn, as you were saying, the Dana shops, Dana shops, Dana shops, he makes a reference to The Shining, where he says, "All work and no play makes Jack a dull boy." So we have Linda Blair from The Exorcist and a couple of Shining references. So they're pulling out all the stops with this one.
Yeah,
Okay, so hitting play then.
yeah.
Yeah, here's that all
Oh,
work and
yeah.
no play makes Jack a dull boy.
And I love the so now, and I love this how Sam sees something on the desk here and blows on it to get it to reveal itself. And again, it's this
Yeah,
Dana Schultz. It's like, okay, clearly this individual is trying to get our attention.
right, right. And as of right now, the boys don't know what it is, but
Yeah.
it is this kind of weird, the official term for it is perseveration, where you just keep fixating on a thing. So they've gone through everything. They have no idea who Dana Schultz is.
Yeah. And they have gone through the past 50 years, they have gone through every possible combination, everything, and nothing is coming up. And, and now Dean is starting to get extremely impatient. And I love his, and he's like, maybe I'll just hang out while you try to crack this. And he looks just oh so thrilled as his tongue is clicking and
Making
Sam is
all
just
the
like, you have to be kidding with me. Like, I'll
and there's
go
our
talk
dude.
to
Yeah,
I'll go talk to Karen again while you figure this whole thing out.
yeah. Yeah, you can tell that he's like deliberately being annoying, trying to get Sam to throw him out, and it works. Yes. Uh,
And that's when Sam goes, well, and then I just went back to the hotel. And she's like, yeah, I found the hotel matchbook on your brother. So this whole time you were in Baltimore, why so, and just trying to figure out why in the world they would separate and all of that, and that can't,
yeah,
and explaining that with the 911 call that they had received, that Karen was genuinely terrified because
Mhm.
she knew somebody was in the house. Now, why would you take your glasses off if
Oh
you
my
knew
goodness.
someone was in the house and your vision gets worse?
This annoys me so much. And because they do that great thing with the camera where she takes her glasses off and everything gets blurry so you can see that she needs the glasses to see. They're not decorative. Why the fuck would you take them off if you think there's someone in your house? It makes absolutely no sense.
Now, so, and when she puts them back on, she can very clearly see the ghost that is, at this point, we have to think is haunting her.
Yeah, the boys are
So,
assuming this is a vengeful spirit here.
yes. So she runs upstairs and 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 and, and locks her bedroom door, which I get the whole thing of, yeah, and everyone, no one is assuming that a vengeful spirit would be in their house, but
No.
really, why does everyone have to run up and lock their door?
Well,
So,
so let me say this. If you have, well, and we've got an electronics flicker here
electronics
too,
flicker.
but in all seriousness, if you honestly believe there is a person in your house, your first thing that you need to do is to get out of your house. If
Yeah,
that's not possible, anything you can do to slow that person down is to your benefit. So, going into a room, locking the door, if it's like a main bedroom with an attached bathroom, get in there, lock that door. Like anything you can do to slow down a home intruder to give emergency services time to get to you, that's really
yeah.
what you should be doing. Now, it's not going to work with a ghost,
No.
but she's honestly doing the right thing. Okay, so we're on a black screen here. I'm gonna pause this.
Yes.
Let's look for an electronics flicker here.
Which I do
Um,
have.
oh, that's fantastic. After getting off to an early lead, I have nothing.
Oh, come on.
Yeah, this is a stingy card. So once again, I will salute your victory. Um,
I
yeah,
appreciate that, but it would still be nice if you were right along there with me.
yeah, yeah. You know what? I am pleased at your success. But, but yeah,
Huh,
none for me.
oh,
Um, okay. So hitting play, we've got
hitting. Yeah, we have.
Dean going back to visit Karen.
All right. Whoops. We both hit play at the same time.
That's all right. We're
But
rolling now.
but unbeknownst to Dean, poor guy, the cops have been called.
Right. She's called the police. Um,
So
this is
yeah.
gonna bother me.
So this is about to
This is about to go
potentially
badly
not.
for Dean.
Yeah, this is about to end badly. So he realizes that, oh look, the it's night, the electrical doesn't work, but he has no problem walking upstairs and not bashing into things. Because if it was me, I'd be knocking into every wall on the planet.
Yeah, that's why you and I are not hunters. We would
Yeah.
die.
So of course he finds her in a pool of blood and assumes that it is the vengeful spirit that has made a reappearance when he on the fax machine says, he's like, seriously, what the hell?
Oh, we
And
have a
I honestly, in that
seriously.
moment, I did not mean to quote the show. That actually just happened.
It happens, and
um,
we have a seriously.
yeah.
So we'll look for that in a moment.
So, and he's realizing it's the same bruise marks. And right as he realizes that, the cops get him caught red handed. And
Literally.
yeah,
Yeah. So this is the second time Dean Winchester has been caught by the police, literally kneeling over a bloody body.
Except this time he's supposed to already be dead.
Yeah, small problem. This is a
Yes.
great shot. I think this is gorgeous here. The shot of Detective Sheridan in the two-way mirror so we can see Dean and then the detective's reflection in the glass. I think that's a great shot. Mike Roll is a gifted director. Like his stuff's always really stylish.
Yeah. I love I love what she says though, when she's like, all we have is a whole lot of circumstantial evidence, and the cop goes, well, juries have convicted on a whole lot less. It's like, oh, that's comforting.
Oh yeah, but the way he grabs her chin here is
Hmm.
so condescending. I want to punch
Oh,
him right in his smug face the way he treats her. It's just, oh, so
well, that and
frustrating.
like just because we hear a lot about how the criminal justice system actually does work because two of our dear friends are both lawyers. We
Hmm.
both know that this would not fly.
No, none of this flies, which I'm gonna talk about more later. So we may want to put a pin in that. But yeah,
Yeah.
none of this works. This episode can't happen.
Yeah.
The
So it
the
just
whole thing with the police showing up, like she when Karen Giles called 911, they should have arrived lights and sirens. They should have identified themselves before coming into the property. Yeah, it's just blah. Okay, moving on.
yeah.
This I think
And
is a cool thing here too. Or the boys are they're separated, but they're trying to work the problem and they're handling it differently.
yes.
But they both arrive at the same conclusion at essentially the same time. They just their processes are a little different. So I think that's a pretty cool detail.
But then would Sam really have a pen? Which annoys me.
It's the right question to ask. Now, as far as I can tell from what we see on screen, he has not been arrested, that he's being held under suspicion. So it's not, now they're probably not going to give a pen to Dean because he's shackled to a table. Um, but as near as I can tell from what we see, they haven't actually arrested Sam. Like he's in
Right.
custody. He's certainly a person of interest, but they have no evidence tying him to this crime. Um, I'm not even sure actually why they arrested him, unless um, because he doesn't really have a jacket. Like he doesn't have the rap sheet that Dean does.
Nope.
So it kind of doesn't make sense that they've picked him up. So anyway, you're asking the right question, and it's not impossible they'd let him have one, but I think you're right. It's pretty unlikely.
So so just to add to the craziness here, the lawyer, his public defender has shown up, who is, of course, we're about to find out, working with both Dean and Sam.
Nope.
We'll deal with that issue
Yeah.
in a little bit. And this guy is pretty green around the edges, in my opinion,
I mean,
and
he's a mature.
cannot control Dean to save his life.
Oh no, no,
Just,
no. Well, yeah, nobody is gonna. But yeah, I mean, he's not a young guy, but he gives
I
in.
paused it, by the way.
Yeah, we've got a change of scene here, going to Linda Blair working away on her computer. But yeah, he's all Dean cares about is figuring out who this ghost is. Like, he can't do anything about being arrested right at this moment, so he's going to continue to work the case, which is interesting.
Yeah, I just the way that the lawyers, like, you do know how serious this is. Like, they have your blood, and he's like, "Oh yeah, no, I'm shackled to a table. I fully get this." And he's just looking at him like, uh, I don't know what to do with you.
Yeah. But the lawyer does give him he looks at these, anagram possibilities from Dana Schultz, and he's like, well, there is a street nearby called Ashland,
Yeah.
um, which it's based on what Dean has written down, he gets to sort of surprisingly quickly, but we're gonna pretend it was in the script. He's got to say Ashland, so he does. Uh, excuse me. And then we've gone to now here's um again Linda Blair, and her character's name just went right out of my head. Diana Ballard, there it is. She's
Yes.
filling out some paperwork here.
Yeah, so I'm gonna hit play here,
Hmm.
and she's typing away, and all of a sudden the vengeful spirit, as we believe it is at this point, has taken over her
Yeah.
computer and is now typing Dana Schultz over and over and over and over and over again. And she's of course doing Control Alt Delete, nothing's working, and then all of a sudden it goes away and her computer goes back to
Okay.
normal, and she's like looking around like, did anyone see that? And of
Yep.
course, no.
Yep. So Dean gets a message to Sam, and it's from Hiltz to McQueen. Both brothers call the public defender Matlock, and he says, "You two really are brothers, aren't you?" Which I think is a cute, it's a cute connection between the two.
Yeah, and so of course now I'm calling her Linda. So
Yeah,
so
Diana. Yeah.
so Diana comes in and is like, I need you with the other one. So the lawyer goes in with Dean, and they all think that Dean is about to confess.
This is a great shot
Oh,
too.
mm-hmm.
That's really gorgeous
I
where
love
like you
this.
see him through the camera. It's really great. And this line here is so cute.
I love it. This whole thing cracks me up.
Yeah. I'm an Aquarius. I like long walks on the beach and frisky women.
And I know I did not kill anyone, but I know who did. Like, and I know it's like Casper the bloodthirsty ghost. So he, of course, he goes into this and he explains right to the camera exactly what they are dealing with.
Yeah, he tells the truth. And here we
Yeah.
get our second shining reference. He mentions red rum, which is, a reverse of the word murder. So, he's talking about how communicating through the veil is problematic. But yeah, he's telling the truth, and it just sounds like crazy talk.
But of course, Diane, and he, of course, he holds up Dana Schultz, and which is Diana has just had this happen on
Right.
her computer. So she's suddenly realizing this might not be as insane as this whole thing sounds. And he then brings up when he the shapeshifter from Skin, and he goes, "Oh, and by the way, that wasn't me either."
Right.
And tries to set the record straight on that one as well. So we hear a lot of references to Skin in
Hmm.
this episode.
We do. And then they get back, and this whole thing was a diversion to get all the cops in Baltimore, like Baltimore is some backwards Barney Fife kind of municipality. But apparently, we're supposed to believe that the Baltimore PD is not that bright, and this has given Sam an opportunity to escape out of an unsecured window.
I'm going to save my tirade till later.
Okay,
Um
we might have the same tirade.
so Diana is now in the bathroom, which is of course now we have another electronics flicker, and the water is now turning itself on to
Hmm.
full steam, and all that, so that now what we feel is the vengeful spirit can make can make an appearance. And it's about to write Dana Schultz on the mirror as she is about to turn around or look in the mirror and see this thing, and she realizes the guys are not as insane as everyone thinks they are.
Yeah.
So she walks in up looking as white as a ghost and is like, okay, let's imagine you're not as nuts as I might have thought. Let's let's talk about this.
Let's pretend here. I like I love this reference to the Mysteries of the Unknown Time Life series. I may have that series. Um, yeah, I think this is a great scene here where he's like, okay, I'll play along, and he just keeps telling the truth.
Yeah, yeah, like yes, these things can kill. Yes, they are normally nasty. Yes, they can kill. And he notices the bruises on her wrist, which were not there a moment ago, and she's suddenly like, what the hell?
Yeah, and Dean's like, you've
And
seen it, haven't you?
she's like, and she's baffled at this point. She's
Yeah,
absolutely,
this is something that we've seen with other police. We saw it with Kathleen Hudak in The Benders.
mhm,
Um, we're gonna see it again where like because this is crazy, right? Like there's no such thing as ghosts that kill people and monsters. It's preposterous. But as soon as they see something they have no other explanation for, they kind of have no choice but to get on board. It probably happens a little faster than it needs to, or that it is realistic because they only have 42 minutes for storytelling.
yeah,
But yeah, like, okay, I gotta believe what I've seen with my own eyes. We do have a quirky motel room here. We'll pause in a minute to check this.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah, but I love how at least Dean feels that, all right, I've got to trust her enough to give up some of their secrets, like, okay, go to the first motel in the yellow pages. Here's one of the names that we'll use, and you'll find Sam. You got to let him help you. Like,
yeah, Jim
and
Rockford.
yeah, and I mean, Dean's taking a risk there because
He is. I interrupted. I'm sorry.
no, there's nothing technically stopping her except for the fact that, I mean, she'd be stupid to do it, but there's nothing to stop her from arresting him.
Well, and Dean even says it, like you can arrest him if you want, or you can let him save your life.
Yeah,
Like everyone else who's gone through what you've seen is dead. So guess what? You're next. And she's
yeah,
seen enough. She believes him. On top of what we were saying earlier, that I'm not confident they have any kind of evidence to arrest Sam for anything. So I think that the risk is somewhat minimal. But yeah, you're absolutely right. He is taking a risk. She could arrest them both.
yeah.
Uh,
I love how Sam made the comment of, you do your job, you have your job, I have mine. Like when she was
yeah.
like, how'd you get those pictures? Well, you have your job, I have my job.
Did I do that? Um, yeah, this is kind of fun when he's going through all the missing persons, and she immediately identifies this one particular woman
Yeah,
as being what my partner calls the Pez dispenser ghost in the episode.
So,
Who was there's a connection to a case, an old narcotics case.
so yeah, so they're now they've left the quirky motel room and they are just looking around and it's very much what are we looking for? I'll tell you when we get there. And so they're just kind of hunting hunting around and Sam something must have caught Sam's eye.
Mm-hmm.
Of course we never do find out what it is. And
Oh, we
he
do.
goes upstairs and she spots something some it looks like some blood on a cloth
Mm-hmm.
and starts looking around and then all of a sudden we discover that again she finds the woman.
Here's the ghost with her throat cut. This is a great effect, I
Yeah.
think, where you can still like see the blood coming out of the wound.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. What's funny though is that the ghost never stays around long enough for Sam to see her. Like every single time, right as he's going to get like and right as he's going to get there, it disappears.
yeah,
Like you'd kind of think that she'd hang around, but
yeah. As of right now, is not. He's not at risk. So, I mean, we're going to find out in a minute that she's
yeah,
not a vengeful spirit, that she's a death
yeah,
omen. I think the light in this scene is really beautiful coming through this window.
yeah,
Um, So
yeah,
it used to be a business called Ashland Supply. So that's where the letters for Dana Schultz were coming from.
yep, yep. And he
Um,
even says, "Okay, now all the extra letters are make sense."
yep.
And now
Um,
we have an EMF detect, and we're about to have an EMF detector. Yep.
we do. So, and I'm gonna pause it actually. So we're looking for a quirky motel room and an EMF detector. I don't want to lose
And
sight of
I
it.
have both.
Yay, good for you.
Now, please tell me
And
you have both.
not looking like it, no.
Oh,
I
come
have a wacky
on.
diner. Um, no, nope. I
Oh,
have neither.
that
This is
sucks.
very, this is a very dry episode for me.
Well, you're not going to let
Uh,
your sister drink alone.
Congratulations on your squares.
That sounded really bad.
I'm celebrating your victories quite a bit
Yeah, but I'm feeling
this
bad because you
episode.
need to have some victories of your own.
Yeah. Oh, well, do you remember first season where I had almost all the squares? So it's your turn. All right. Um, all right, hitting play here
So,
after my
so, so he's
disappointing
explaining
appearance.
what an EMF detector is.
He's telling her that. He's telling her
And
what.
they are headed right for the wall, and it is going crazy. And he goes,
Yeah,
"Well,
so the light through this window is reflecting on this wall. So, and
yeah,
that's where the EMF detector is going boinga boinga.
yeah." And it's funny how he can kind of use two hands for the first part, and then he very much has to go with one hand for the rest of it.
Yeah, he's still got the cast.
Yeah,
So he's doing the best he can with his broken wrist. Um, but I love this exchange here where he says, something's bothering me. And she says, well, we are digging up a body. And he's like, no, it's pretty par for the course, actually. And
I do love that, and especially with the smile he has when he says it. It's like, yeah, not a big deal for us.
Just another Thursday. Yeah. And sure
So,
enough, they crack open this wall
yeah,
and there's
and
what's obviously a body.
yes, clearly. Now they, and a lot of things get answered when they undo this wrapping, for lack of a better word.
Yeah, no, she's wrapped up.
Yeah, so we figure out why each person gets the cuff marks because it turns out she's been shackled
Yeah. Yeah. That's
when
what
she was,
the she's got ligature marks on her wrists.
yep, yep, which is why all the victims, for lack of a better word, have the same
Yeah.
marks. And now look at the necklace, and you
Mm-hmm.
realize that it's supposed to be a rare, custom made, one of a kind necklace, except for the fact that she's wearing the exact same one.
Yeah, this annoys me. They needed a MacGuffin clearly for the detective to put the pieces together that Detective Sheridan is involved. But it I'm going to say more about this later. It kind of doesn't make sense to me that the dead woman would have the same necklace. But we'll talk more. I think it's lazy writing, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is where she kind of where Sam goes, well, how much do you know about your partner? And you watch her eyes, and she has suddenly put all the pieces together, that there was some heroin that disappeared, and they knew it was a cop, but they couldn't ever figure out who who did it, and that the individual needed someone like Claire to cover everything up.
Was
And she
a drug
suddenly,
dealer. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, she is suddenly putting all the pieces together that Pete is the drug dealer. So now we come
He's
back.
they knew it was a cop who was involved with the heroin going missing.
Yes.
And he needed a drug dealer who is the dead woman.
Yeah. So now now we discover that Pete has Dean,
Right.
and he has decided that that Dean needs to be taken to another location, and that Pete is the only one who can do it. And he is pulled off to the side of the road, and Dean realizes can't this can't end well.
No, he's very suspicious. I've paused it here because there was
Yeah.
this little line that went by I don't want to lose sight of where Dean says, "You just decided to transfer me yourself 800 miles at 2 o'clock in the morning." Like, Dean knows this is suspicious. Like,
Yeah.
we haven't seen anything in the middle here. We just we go from the last scene we saw Dean in was back at the police precinct with Diana, Detective
Mm-hmm.
Ballard, and now all of a sudden he's in the back of the van in the middle of the night. So this is something shady is going on. Again, I don't know how easy this is going to be for one police detective to sign a suspect into his own custody at 2 o'clock in the morning. That seems a little fishy to me. Um, but something I do think is kind of funny is he at some point calls this Detective Sheridan, he calls him Punch, which is a reference to the 70s police procedural Chips, which is the California Highway Patrol.
Yeah.
That starred an actor named Eric Estrada as Officer Frank Poncherello, and Jason Gedrick bears some resemblance to to Eric Estrada. As a side
Yes.
note, Chips also starred Robert Pine, who is Chris Pine's father, and it starred Michael Dorn, who would go on to play Lieutenant Worf in Star Trek: The Next Generation. So there's a decent number of recognizable actors very early in their careers in there. You know what? While we have it paused, no, I lied. We'll pick it up in a minute. Okay, so Dean knows something is up, and when Ponch pulls over in the middle in shady woods in the middle of the night, Dean goes pee break. So soon. So we're hitting play. And this is
I love
huge
that. You
prostate.
might want to get your prostrate checked.
Prostate.
We haven't been on the road for that long.
Mm.
Oh,
But we've got a son of a bitch
son of a
here, which
bitch.
we'll check for.
Yep. It's like, okay, I'm cool if I'll just stay in the van. And he's like,
No,
yeah,
no,
no.
I'll
And
stay in the
he
van.
throws him on the ground.
We've got another sign.
Your son.
So it, you, if you're if you're on the fan sites, you may have seen, this whole like elf on a shelf. Now there's Ackles in shackles, and it's this photo of Dean sitting on the ground, in his handcuffs. Um, but yeah, no, this is not going well. He's about to shoot Dean.
Yep, and thank God that Sam and Diane show up when they do, because
Mhm.
yeah, because another 30 seconds and that would not have ended well. And
Yeah.
he's like, I'm pretty sure I'm faster than you are. And it's like really, it's like, how condescending are you really gonna be?
Oh yeah, yeah, this guy's a douche. And but as far as he's concerned, he hasn't done anything wrong. He's only killed people he had to protect himself. This is all gonna go away. Like we can pin everything on this Winchester guy and we can get away scot-free. Isn't this perfect?
Yeah, I love it. One more dirt bag. He's like, excuse me. No one will question it. I still love you. It's like, really? Yeah, and I love it. She puts the gun down to get his guard down, and he really buys it that she's doing it just so that she can very quickly draw her firearm to shoot him. It's
Yeah,
like,
I think you're being very generous here. I think, again, this sort of makes no sense. Like, I don't see her dropping that weapon to until he put his down. There's the photo there of Ackles and
yeah.
Shackles. Um, but yeah, okay, but it was in the script. That's how it's happening.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot here that's because and now we all see the
The
ghost.
Pez dispenser is back, and
Yeah.
now, yeah, she shoots him in the back.
Yeah. I think he is finally done, and which will put the spirit to rest. And th- and this is when we find out that sometimes they're just trying to find their killer, and that not all spirits are vengeful. Some are just death omens.
Yeah, which is what we saw back in Asylum, right? That
Yeah.
Sam recognized that these spirits were not looking to hurt anybody. They were trying to communicate. So he makes the same connection here with the ghost that he did then. That not because once again, the monster in the episode is a human being.
Yeah.
And the thing we think is the monster, the spirit, is just trying to get justice. It's just trying to communicate.
Mm-hmm. So and then we fit and so then so because they helped her out, she's like, well, if I just turn my back and you two just disappear, she's like,
Yeah.
I she's and of course Sam's like, yeah, but you could lose your job. She's like, let me worry about that. Let me just radio this in. And Sam's like, we're pretty good at improvising. Yeah, I've noticed. I just
Yeah, so
I love that little interaction there. I
I
absolutely
do
love it.
too. Although again, it's problematic. You know what? So we've got this cute line at the end. I could go from for some pea soup, which is a reference back to The Exorcist,
Exorcist,
and
yeah.
that is our episode.
Episode.
Um, so we do need to go and look at our cards for a son
Oh,
of a bitch.
yep.
Um, which, if memory serves, I don't have. Oh no, I do. I do. I have one. So
Yay!
I am, I have four squares. They're all in a row. And if a demon had gotten stuck in a demon trap, I would have five in a row. But those are it. Those are all I have.
Damn. Okay. Yeah, if I had either gotten a meta moment or a crack about Sam's hair, I would have had bingo.
So how many did you have, Max? Okay, so you have four in a row as well.
I have four in a row twice.
Where's oh, I see it now, the diagonal. You do. You do. You have it
Yes.
twice. And then a total of, what is it?
One,
Six, seven,
two,
eight,
yeah. One,
right?
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Correct.
Okay. Well, you are absolutely, you have lost by the least. And I will
Yay.
once again salute your victory, although I have one square of my own. So, a couple things here before we move on is so Diana Ballard does the same thing Kathleen Hudak did back in the
Yeah.
Benders, is which
Yes.
once again was an episode where the real monster was a human, but she lets them escape. Now
Yep.
she says she can clear up the charges for this particular case. She can get them off the hook for this one because the real killer was Detective Sheridan. Um, so they're off the hook for the murders in Baltimore, but she's like, I can't do anything about back in St. Louis because so
Lewis.
now you were dead, but now they know we know the cops, we know you're alive. So you're back on the hook for that. Um, so I don't know. There's a lot that bothers me about the end there. That again, it's like they're not following police procedure. She should have radioed in where she was. She should have called for backup. Like there's all kinds of things wrong with
Oh yeah.
that. That being said, so that last line, that for some reason I could really go for some pea soup, that was not in the script. That was something Jensen added in post production. He was doing dialogue replacement. So he did that in the ADR truck in post production. He added that in. On top of that, if you listen really closely to the score for this episode, composer Jay Gruska used some of the elements from The Exorcist. So it's not a complete homage, but he tried to pull in some of those elements as kind of a nod to The Exorcist. All right. One thing you loved, one thing you hated. I think listening, based on the conversation we've had so far, I suspect you and I are both going to land on the same thing that we hated, but you take it away.
There's so many things though that I didn't like. Like
Mm,
there's all
yeah,
right,
you can
I'm
only
gonna
pick
put it
one.
in a very, very, very. This is gonna be about as widely scoped as
You're
I can
casting a
do it.
broad net.
Yeah, this is gonna be a really broad net.
Okay.
Just the police part of it because there are so many holes, so
Yeah.
many just incorrect, just in general, just
Yep.
broad net. That
Yep.
is what I
Getcha?
did not like, which I realize it feels like it's three-quarters of the episode.
I know. It's a lot.
um, and what I did like, and again, it didn't make a lot of sense, but I still liked it all the same, which doesn't make sense also. I
Yeah,
liked how the two, it shows how, and yes, I know what's on the script, don't give a shit, how the two brothers came, you see the two brothers thinking through it
yeah,
independently at the same, like, but
yep.
you see them getting there at the same time. I love how they just did that.
I
I
agree.
thought I thought that was neat.
I do. I
I,
agree. I think
neat is probably the
that's a
wrong
great
word,
moment.
but you know what I
No,
mean.
no, no. I'm with you. I'm with you. I agree. It's a fun moment. Yeah, I don't think it's going to come as a surprise to anyone that just so last episode you were saying the thing that you hated about No Exit was how much you had to suspend disbelief. And while I respect your position, I did not personally have the same experience for that one. This one, it just you want to bang your head against a wall. Like I can't believe like you wrote a script about and you made it what was essentially a police procedural and you couldn't take 10 minutes. I can't believe no one at the WB has a a police consultant that you could have called. You know, like it just it's not a well-written episode from like
No,
if you're gonna make it a police procedural, at least watch an episode or two of Law and Order. You know, like watch
something.
Castle, watch something.
Watch the
Watch,
rookie. I mean, come on,
watch the
something.
Rookie. Well, the Rookie didn't exist then. But like, you know, Law and Order's been on since you and I were in diapers practically. Like there's like come on, you know. So yeah, I agree with you. I hated how much you have to suspend disbelief for this episode. That it
Yeah.
would have been so much better if they had just taken a little bit of time to hammer down some of those details. What I really loved was Dean's confession. I there's so much about that. And again, Mike Roll is a really talented director. I love his stuff. But the way it's filmed through the camera viewfinder,
Mm-hmm.
you know, with the little monitor there,
Yes.
it's a really great choice. Um, there's also this moment where Dean looks at the camera and he says, I haven't killed anyone, but I know who did. And the first person, if you watch his eye line, the first person he looks up at is Detective Sheridan. So I'm thinking, if I were Detective Sheridan and I knew I had killed someone, and here's this dude I'm trying to pin that murder on, and he says he knows who killed her, and he's looking right at me, I've got a brick in my pants. And it's just it's a great little moment. And again, you know what we already talked about, you know, again he calls the detective punch.
Yep.
And you know he tells the truth. And this is something we're going to see. It's a technique the boys deploy. We're going to see them use this again, that when they need to throw people off guard, they tell the truth. And it's unbelievable. It's impossible. Um, it just happens to be the truth. So I just think it's really the highlight of the episode for me is that confession scene from Dean. Pretty much nothing else makes any sense.
No, no. As I said, I mean, the scene that I like, to me, you again have to suspend disbelief because neither one of them, in my opinion, should have a pen in their hand.
Mm-mm.
So neither one should be able to make that scene work.
Right.
So yeah,
Yeah,
I mean,
no, I agree. The whole
I
episode
mean,
essentially can't happen.
yeah, yeah. So it's like, yeah, it's neat to watch the mental part happen, but the rest of it should be procedurally impossible.
It should be impossible. I agree. Well, I'm gonna have one more. Saluting your near victory. Cheers.
Cheers.
Mm. All right. That is last call. Thanks so much for coming along with us for the ride. If you like what we're doing here, be sure to tell your friends, like our videos, subscribe, and that makes it easier for other people to find us too. We love
Mhm.
hearing from our SPN family. Comment on the video. Send us an email at hunterfuelpodcast@gmail.com. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram at hunterfuelpodcast. In our next episode, we will be watching season 2, episode 8, Crossroad Blues, when Dean dances with the devil. Until then, stay safe, everybody. Bye bye.
Good night.